Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Sheepler's Podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Wright, and today's guest is Daniel. He's going to be speaking to my listeners about how he survived a traumatic brain injury. Hi,
Hey,
Daniel.
hey, Brooke. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate being here.
Thank you so much for sharing with my listeners how you survived traumatic brain injury. So, can you tell our listeners a little bit about your history and your backstory?
Yeah, for sure. So going into my senior year of high school, it was summertime, July 2009. And essentially, I was a passenger in a car that was slowing down for a stop sign. And the driver, somehow the two right tires moved off the side of the road, just a 2-lane rural highway. We overcorrected into the oncoming lane and then overcorrected one more time, and then we rolled 4 times. From that point on, I don't have any recollection until they brought me out of the medically induced coma. But during that time frame, I needed to have brain surgery. I fractured my skull. I had a stroke in my left prefrontal lobe, and I also had a collapsed lung. So, during that time, the doctors told my parents that they weren't sure if I was going to make it through the night, and that the next 24 hours would tell a lot about my recovery process. And then 3 days later, they started weaning me out of the coma during the day.
Oh, wow. So was you the only passenger or the only person that was hurt that bad?
Yeah, so at that level, yes, the driver did have a concussion, and I think something going on with either the shoulder blade or the shoulder. So, but I didn't have anything to really hold on to while we were rolling, and the driver had the steering wheel, is what they think. So,
Oh, man. So how did you feel after you came out? Like, how was your life afterwards?
that's a big question. So I'll break it down into kind of a few different areas. So I did 10 days in the ICU, and when I first woke up, I thought that I've never, up to that point in time, I've never gone through like a significant time zone change, and my brain was foggy. So I thought I was in France when I came to, and I just went through like the time change. So it took a minute for like the actual stuff to set in. From that point forward, like once I had some of those cognitive abilities back, that's where it started kind of setting in, right? Like, okay, I'm on a feeding tube, right? Like, I'm losing weight because I'm going from a super active person, lifestyle, fast metabolism, down to somebody that's laying down for most of the day. And also, feeding tubes don't give you that many calories. But then I did 7 days inpatient rehab. And then during that time, I started speech therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, even some massage therapy as well. And then started the recovery process after that. And I did 3 months of outpatient physical therapy and then 17 months of speech therapy.
Oh my God. I'm glad you survived. How did your family take it? Like your parents and people that were close to you?
Yeah. I think multiple ways, because everyone's different. I think there is the piece of like, obviously fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then also this piece of like, Daniel on the outside looks okay, but on the inside, right, I struggled to formulate thoughts, right? I struggled to do things cognitively that I could once do. And so I think there's those invisible scars that people can't always see. And then there are assumptions, right? Because somebody looks all right, they're back. And that's not always the case.
Wow. So I'm so happy you survived. So I went through your website a little bit. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Tell my listeners a little bit about what you're doing now with your life.
Sure. So up until the traumatic brain injury, I think we all have these, backing up, I think we all have these very kind of pinnacle time periods in our life that if we can use them, we can really align with our values, and we can really use them as platforms to move in the direction of our values. So before the accident, I didn't really know where I was going with my life, maybe a business degree, maybe military. Afterwards, I knew I would be somewhere in the helping profession. I just didn't know where. And then a few months after my TBI, I spoke to my sister, who's also a social worker, and she was like, check out this profession. And I did, and I have my undergrad in social work, and then I figured out after a few years to really do the one-on-one stuff that I wanted to do, I needed to go get my master's. And then now I have my master's and I have my own private practice. We focus a lot on trauma, PTSD, complex PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, and then also other mental health diagnoses, bipolar, depression, self-injury behavior, self-injurious behaviors, suicidal ideation, anxiety, schizophrenia. So it's been a beautiful journey, but it's been, it's had its hard parts, right? And no one's recovery, whether it's from a TBI, mental illness, addiction, right? Like that stuff isn't always a straight line.
Wow. Well, I'm glad I came across you because they just now diagnosed me like 2 weeks ago with bipolar. I was like, no wonder I'm psycho. I was like, something's wrong with me. But wow, man, it's nice to have somebody that knows what I'm going through, Like,
sure.
So have you met anybody that has had a traumatic brain injuries like yourself? Like, how do you communicate with them and how does that work?
Yeah, so I've met people in my personal life that have had them, and then obviously there's kind of that already shared understanding. Sometimes if it's a client, I don't always disclose it right away because I think it's something that needs to be in the right space and the right time, as well as I want that client to, invite me to share if I've been through something, or if that's not happening, I'll ask permission to share a little bit, right? Because I think there's power dynamics everywhere we look in our world, right? Therapist and client, there's power dynamics, even though it's a safe relationship. And I think sometimes when we have that lived experience of recovery, of, being beaten down and really struggling where nobody can help you, and we can join on that empathetic level, like that's where healing can take place.
Yeah, definitely. So whenever you was in the accident, the people that was also in the accident, did they ever come to you and like, I wouldn't say apologize, but have you had contact with them or said anything to them or anything?
Yeah. So it's funny. So after the accident, I would only trust my family members or the person that I was in the accident with to drive me around. I just trusted him so much. And then we started, actually the first time I was in the gym after my accident was with him. We would go running together, and we even still message on Facebook on the anniversaries and stuff like that.
Oh, wow. When did it happen, if you don't mind telling?
Yeah, so it was July 2009, so I was 17.
Oh, wow. Wow. So on your website, can you go through your website, how you speak with your clients and how you help them, and a little bit about your website?
Yeah, so I don't have it in front of me, but I definitely have a drop-down menu of what do we focus on in our sessions in terms of how do I know I'm going to be a good fit, right? Anxiety, depression, traumatic brain injury, trauma, even couples therapy on some level. And then there's the areas where I'm trained, right? Cognitive behavioral therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, eye movement, desensitization, reprocessing, and then cognitive processing therapy. And then it has some of the work that we do in terms of individual, couples, group, right? Like those kind of different modalities that we deliver therapy in. And I also have a podcast. I don't have my own podcast, but I have episodes on my website. So if people are thinking about working with me and they want to hear me kind of talk and get to know me on a different level, they can listen to those podcasts episodes.
Oh yeah, I can show them your website while we're on here. Hold on, let me see if I can bring it up.
Yeah, whatever works, or link to it in the notes. That's cool too. I have a blog that has some really cool content in terms
I think
of
it should. Okay.
Yep.
Can
There
you
it
see
is.
it?
Yeah, I can. So I also have a blog that has some really good content around TBIs, trauma,
Oh, okay.
schizophrenia, bipolar, and then there's the kind of old adage of submit contact me form, right?
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, you do couples therapy too?
I do only when it's only when the couple's relationship is impacted by a mental illness.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I like this. You do a lot.
So
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's gonna grow, and it takes good things take time to build. So we definitely want to get to a point where we can build off and do kind of a nonprofit arm for Medicaid only people, and really train the next kind of generations of therapists coming in. So.
Oh, nice. So is you and like a team, or is it just you and your sister?
So it is right now just me, but I
Oh,
will be hiring another clinician probably the next few months, and we'll probably grow it to about 9 or 12 clinicians.
nice. So I want to go
Yeah.
a little bit more through your website because I've already seen like the about me and stuff,
Yeah.
but I didn't go through all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So you do the mood disorders, the depression. So you meet with specific clients and go through all of these things?
So usually somebody that comes for therapy is like, hey, I'm having challenges with anxiety or mood disorders, right? Or I've experienced, sexual abuse or combat trauma. And that is kind of where we start. Usually like depression can look like part of a trauma response. Sometimes complex post-traumatic stress disorder can also look like bipolar disorder, as well as maybe even some elements of schizophrenia, because there's maybe hallucinations or auditory hallucinations, right? So I can work in all those areas, but usually people just seek me for one or two things at a time, and then through our work together we're like, okay, this is actually associated with this.
Oh, okay. So when they go to the contact you, do you just like, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to word this like my therapist does.
Yeah, no
So
worries.
do you like have like a meeting with them before you work with them? Like, does it make sense?
Yeah,
Like
so
how they do it.
usually unless somebody's like dead set of like, I need to start therapy, like we're going to start this week or next week, I'll usually always have a 20-minute consultation call with them to make sure we're a good fit, right? I mean, your relationship with your therapist and the therapist's relationship with you is crucial in the healing process, and we want to make sure everyone's a good fit before we start working and they start paying too.
Oh, okay. Okay. I like that. And do you accept insurance and stuff like that, or is it just you do?
It's no, it's just private pay. Yep.
Oh, private. Okay.
So,
And do you like have a payment plan?
yeah, so usually services are billed like at midnight the night after. Now let's see here, if somebody wants to use insurance and they're like, hey, my insurance accepts super bills, we can offer those. And they can get some reimbursement, but we can't speak to how much they may get reimbursed or anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of how therapy works. And some stuff that's not on the website yet is I do quite a bit of like consultation for people who have sustained TBIs that maybe don't want therapy, but they just need to like, hey, my family's struggling and how to support me. Can we have a few kind of meetings to talk about this? So like coaching around TBI recovery and for support systems. And then let's see here. One of the things that's newer on my website is also offering EMDR intensives. So it's kind of like EMDR, but I would say maybe 2 or 3 months of EMDR weekly sessions condensed into maybe 6 hours. So
Nice. I like that. So is there anything else you want to share with my listeners before I let you go?
yeah, I think the piece around we're all going to have these have these challenging moments or face some level of adversity in life. Nobody can really escape this world without it. And if we can use those moments to really act as like beacons to guide us to maybe our profession, maybe it's an area of service, maybe it's an area of volunteering, right? But some way of making a positive impact in our society, that once we can lean into that, it is incredible how your kind of internal flame does not burn out when you're inside your values.
Yeah, I like what you're doing, because after that, I don't know, like, I've never experienced that before, but after that, I like it that you are doing something with your life, like doing and bettering yourself and helping other people, because I don't know if I would be in that situation, how I would take it, because I'm so, with my bipolar, I probably would be in the hospital for a while. But yeah, you're definitely strong.
Well, and I think adversity hits us differently, right? Sometimes it's chronic illness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes it's cancer, right? Sometimes it's loss. And it's how do we reshape that to be meaning in our lives?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to thank you so much, Daniel, for coming on my podcast and sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Brooke.
You have a great day.
You as well.
Bye. Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening to my discussion with Daniel. If you would like to check out his website, I have it right here, and let me make sure I have it up. Okay, that right there is his website. Okay, and then that's the phone number, address, and all that. To get into contact with him, you can fill that out, and he has different topics and different blogs and podcasts he's been on and everything. Like, if you want to discuss it with him, you can contact him, and those are his office hours. And I hope y'all have a great day, make great choices, and thank you so much for supporting my podcast. Have a great day. Bye.